And the British demanded that they keep buying their opium, and if they don't, they would look down the long barrel of British justice. That's the sad story of the 1800s. But part of that, however, shifted part of the treaty for the way that the Chinese would embrace and accept Westerners into the mainland. And this is how this went, because Hudson Taylor's philosophy of missionary work was the best philosophy. That philosophy was that the gospel of Christ has to be heralded. Heralded. It's a gospel that is given best response when it's proclaimed fervently, tenaciously, unhesitatingly. It's declared Christ is Lord and conversions are made. And Hudson Taylor saw this in every city port that he went, but he was determined to go inland, and he did. He sailed back to England. His health was unwell. His family's health was unwell. He'd married while he was in China to another missionary daughter. They went back to England, and he began to formulate this idea, the China Inland Mission, where he would recruit missionaries to sign up to go inland where no Westerner had ever gone before. Their primary responsibility would be to preach, herald the gospel, and they would never be guaranteed any kind of payment or support or supply. It's a pretty hard sell, right? It's when there are all these other organizations that are cropping up promising great amounts of stipend and salary. Here's Hudson Taylor saying, I'll send you into the interior where you're likely going to die, but you get to wear Chinese clothes and there's not going to be any money. And you would think that that has to be abject failure. He's going to fall flat on his face, but God's grace was on him and on the venture. God's work, done God's way, will never lack God's supply. Dozens signed up for this life. Soon hundreds signed up for this life. Hudson Taylor had a huge crisis. Because although he felt he had enough faith to believe for himself, I've got enough faith to believe God will supply my daily needs, how am I going to have enough faith for others? How is this possible? The party sailed, and yet more and more signed up. Soon Hudson Taylor was taking enlistments from Canada, from America, from Australia, from Scandinavia. Soon his missionary organization, toward the end of his life, counted 900 laborers for the gospel. None of them ever promised a single dime. Hudson Taylor kept a bank account, people kept giving money, and he kept filtering it to the provinces and the regions and the missionaries, but never was anyone ever guaranteed anything. It was if you want to go, you go because God has called you to go, and you trust His promise of supply. And if you can't trust God's promise of supply, Taylor used to say, you got no business in going. Hudson Taylor even had the privilege of telling his own story. I went out under the auspices of an organization and a society, and I was promised salary and I had nothing. He said, the difference is I'm just being honest with you. You might have nothing, but you do have God, and those that have God have Him for their all. Hudson Taylor went and preached. He went back, he made several return visits, each time taking larger teams of missionaries, each time penetrating further and further and further into the interior of China until hundreds of thousands of conversions were being counted as the Church of Jesus Christ was continuing to grow.